Good afternoon, guys. I have another video here for you. Something that comes up a lot in this community, and I'm sure you have thought about it, and I've thought about it quite a lot. And you ask yourself, was it my fault that this happened? Was it my fault that I entered the narcissistic relationship? Well, I want to tell you today definitively that the narcissistic relationship was not your fault. It really wasn't. So, I think that what happens is a lot of times we like to blame ourselves for one thing because we feel guilt and we feel tragedy and we feel pain and all the different things that the narcissist cannot feel and won't feel. When they made their pact with the devil, they gave these things up. They left their true self, in a sense, behind, and they left what a lot of us identify as normal, healthy human emotions. They can't truly love. They can't truly have empathy. They can feign these things, and maybe they can recognize them or have them to some small degree, but not the way a normal person does, especially someone who's of the light, who's really healthy. They can't do it the same way. But what I hear a lot is, also on some channels that I think mean well and do a lot of good, but one thing I don't like that I hear a lot on channels, certain ones, is it almost makes it sound like the narcissistic relationship was our fault. You've probably heard this. You might know what I'm saying. When they'll talk about how basically you were just in such a position that you were so down and out, and you didn't have boundaries, and you didn't recognize what you needed in life. You weren't good being you. You didn't know that such evil existed anywhere, or better yet, that evil existed in this world. You were so predisposed to having this person enter your life that if you really kind of think about it, it's almost your fault. Well, I don't know if you've ever gotten that vibe, but I certainly have from different channels. And I want to tell you that that's wrong. It's wrong on every level. So, a disclaimer. I do talk about often that the narcissist comes at an opportune time, just like Satan does. Satan attacked Jesus at an opportune time. He left for a more opportune time. We know that he masquerades as an angel of light. So do his foot soldiers, the narcissists. They're all the same. I mean, it's the character of Satan through and through. So we know that they do these things, but the simple fact that they know when to come and when you're vulnerable doesn't make it your fault. So yeah, some people are in a bad position. Some people are codependent. Some people do live with a spouse for a long time and then they're divorced and they're trying to figure it out. A lot of us just don't like to be alone. And I think that's understandable. It's not healthy if a person can't be alone. That's not healthy. The narcissist can't be alone. So maybe you also did go through an illness, a sickness, a depressed state, a hard patch, a rough patch in your life. That may have happened. And the narcissist does get sent like a wind-up toy and sent into your life at those times. But guess what? Life is dynamic. Life has its ups and downs. We don't all sit at the top of the hill every day, 365 a year. We don't have stellar year after stellar year after stellar year. We do have rough patches, some more than others. I'm not complaining, but I know in the last two and a half years, I've been through about 3 major crises events, big major things. It happens, especially when you have an enemy that's always after you, like he is of people of the light. So maybe you were vulnerable. But also, you may not have been. You may have been at a place where you were good. You were strong. You were healthy overall. You were living your life. You were content. You did have boundaries. You didn't think everybody was good. You weren't a people pleaser in the sense that you didn't have any boundaries. I don't think it's even wrong to be a people pleaser. I think that as a Christian, I'm called to be a servant. But I'm not called to have no boundaries and let people just trample over me who are evil. I'm not called for that, to do that. But my point is, maybe you were vulnerable and they came. Maybe you weren't vulnerable and they still came. Because see, they also just attack people of the light, and they'll attack people of the darkness in between their quest to get people of the light. Say they have a person of the light, and there's another one they're going to be with down the road, maybe, if they're lucky. All that time in between these two, they're going to be stopping off at some nasty grade F supply all the way in between. And they'll be blowing those people up too. Were all of them vulnerable? Some are, some aren't. So I want to tell you this, though. Here's my point. It doesn't matter if you were at a vulnerable place in your life or you were at the pinnacle of where you've been in your life. The narcissistic relationship was still not your fault. People will say, well, you were a carnal Christian. You weren't ready. You didn't have boundaries. You weren't in a good place. If you'd been in a good place, this never would have happened. I don't agree with that. And I know because I lived it. Yeah, when the narcissist came for me personally, I was in a vulnerable place in some ways, but I was still very strong. I was in a great spiritual place. You couldn't just walk over me. You couldn't just come in and blow me down. I wasn't a follower. I've never been that. I've never been weak-willed. I've never thought that everybody in the world is good. Heck no. The Bible is clear about that. This world is corrupt. And most people are not saved. Many are called, few are chosen. Wide is the path that leads to destruction. Narrow is the path that leads to life, and few will find it. This is consistent throughout the whole Bible. And it's consistent with what we see around us, isn't it? So I never thought that everyone was good, that nobody meant evil, that just everyone you could enter a relationship with was going to treat you like gold. No. So I can speak from experience. I had some boundaries in place. I was in a good place in certain ways, had some vulnerabilities in certain ways. Well, guess what? That's called being a human being. So I'm not taking the blame for this event. Now I will say, now some of you guys also, just to say, a lot of you guys can resonate. You probably didn't have these rose-colored glasses on everything that ever happened in life. You might have been in a good place when they came. You might not have. You might have been a hybrid in between, going through some things, but still a really strong person. Either way, it wasn't your fault. It just wasn't. And let me tell you why this happens to anyone. The narcissist, you cannot fathom that such a creature, yes, creature, exists on this earth. That's what happened. See, you can have all the boundaries in the world, and you can know the world for what it truly is, and see things for what they really are with spiritual eyes. But what you don't know until you go through it is how absolutely wicked and demonic and satanic these people really can be. Master con artists, master manipulators. They really are the devil on two legs. They're devil in human flesh. They are his foot soldiers. I can't emphasize this enough. They have spiritual abilities because they've been given over to the powers of darkness. What they do to you is a form of witchcraft. The narcissistic spell, what people call the trauma bond, it's witchcraft. Because you get entangled with all the demons that they have in their lives. They call them soul ties, however you want to put it. When you enter a relationship, unbeknownst to you, with this person, you merge with their satanic energy and their satanic presence that they have in their lives. That's rough. That's nasty to try to break out of. It can be done, especially through the Lord, and it can be done in a decent time if you put the work in and you know Christ. Even if you don't know Christ, you can heal. It's going to take longer, it's going to be slower, and you may never get to the pinnacle. And you may never come to realize what they are to begin with. That's a big one. God revealed it to me crystal clear one day. Boom. Maybe I'll do a video about that soon and tell you about how I came to understand narcissism. That's a great topic. I'll do that one for you guys if you're interested. If you are interested in hearing that, drop comments below. And also like to hear your stories. Point is, you don't know what you're dealing with. You didn't understand that that person who came and masqueraded as an angel of light, as the love of your life, as your twin flame, as everything, or just your best friend maybe. They're going to be your pal, buddies till the end. You didn't know what was behind that mask. You didn't understand that you were basically walking into an arena to have a cage match with demons. And those demons were going to toss you around the cage. Clunk, clunk, clunk. You didn't know that's what you were dealing with, but it was. It's what they are. The fault lies squarely, not on you, not on me, but on the narcissist. We have an enemy out there, and they are his foot soldiers, as I just keep saying. And narcissism is a spiritual disorder. It's a spiritual problem. So people can talk all they want about you were vulnerable, you must have been in a bad place, you had to be a carnal Christian, you must have been set up, just primed for them. Well, I want to tell you that even if that's true for some people, it's not necessarily your fault. Even if you were super strong, they can still come in and wreck you or do a dandy job trying. Either way, it's not your fault. So don't be convinced. Look, I don't beat myself up. I promised myself and God a long time ago, when I finally uncovered the evil that is these people, I told him and myself, I'm not going to beat myself up about the relationship because I gave to a fault. I preached the gospel to this person. I prayed with them and for them. Even post-relationship I tried. You probably did too, at least some combination of those things. So I'm not going to beat myself up because Satan sent an adversary into my life to take me down. And I'm not going to say, man, if only I'd really been in the best possible place, this would never have happened. That's not true. It's not true. They do prey on the vulnerable, but they prey on anybody, especially people of the light. And even if you knew a lot and you were super savvy to this world, if you hadn't been through that kind of relationship with those kind of creatures, you just can't understand. That's why when you're in the relationship, remember, you're sitting there so oftentimes, what was that? Who goes to a diner with their loved one and flirts with the guy next to them or the waitstaff? Who sends them little text messages that were meant to be sent to somebody else, and you could tell that just so you could wonder what the heck's going on? Who plays these little demonic games that they play? What is this I'm dealing with? Pardon me. It's because you didn't know that you were dealing with a demon or demons. You didn't know you were walking into that cage match to be tossed around, boom, 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 by Satan and his dark powers. You didn't know that. It's not your fault that you didn't know that. Ask yourself a really important question. This is big. If you had entered the relationship at the time you did with the narcissist, think about yourself. What state were you in? Psychologically, spiritually, physically, whatever it was. Had you found at that time, instead of the narcissist, a good, loving, caring, kind, godly, consistent person to enter a relationship with, what do you suppose would have happened? I'll tell you what would have happened. It would have flourished. You would still be with that person, probably. You would still you'd probably be married to that person. You'd probably have a very nice life. Have some trials and struggles at times, but you'd work through them. Would you be mauled up, chewed up, twisted up, knotted up, disposed of, and run over top of 50 times? No. Would you have been left going, what in the heck just happened to me? You wouldn't. So that proves my point. Your situation you were in when you entered the relationship with the narcissist is irrelevant in a lot of ways. Not fully irrelevant, But a lot of ways it's irrelevant. Because had you entered the relationship in that exact state with a good, kind, loving person, totally different outcome. Totally different outcome. What does it tell you? It's not your fault, it's the narcissist's fault. See, they're the demented, corrupt, evil, sadistic, twisted, warped people. They're the ones with demonic attachment in their lives. They're the ones that go through their life like an evil vortex that swirl and capture everything and pull it in. They're the ones whose mission and assignment in life is to go and destroy. See my video, the narcissist has an assignment. Because they do. They've made a pact with the devil in their own way, and now they have to live that pact out. Part of that is destroying and wreaking havoc. They need drama, they need chaos. They're the disordered one, the spiritually disordered one. You were not. You probably meant well. I'm sure you did. You probably gave everything you had. You bent over backwards. You did backflips and handstands and headstands for that person. You gave them every ounce of what you had, and you loved and cherished them, and you would have done anything for that person. They can't reciprocate one part of that. They're the ones messed up, not you. So I want you guys to understand this. I'm going to draw this video to a close here. Don't buy into the idea that the narcissist was your fault. But I want to say one thing in conclusion to that. There is one instance where the narcissistic relationship is your fault. One. And it's only this instance, in my opinion. If you have pinpointed what narcissism is, you understand that that person, or at minimum, you understand that that person is toxic and evil and nasty and means you harm, and that nothing ever changes, and that they're dark and they're corrupt, and you come to understand especially the broader picture of what the narcissist represents. If you've pinpointed them and you've figured them out, which you probably have because you're here on this channel, or you're figuring it out, I hope. If you know all of that, and you still allow such an individual into your life, then it's your fault. Then it would be my fault. No excuses, no ifs, ands, or buts. Then it's not the narcissist's fault anymore, it's yours because you knew better and you still let them do it. So I want to be clear about that. Outside of that, please don't spend a second of your thought. Don't spend one day, one sleepless night, one moment thinking, well, man, I guess really it was my fault. I wasn't in the best place I could have been. So what? Doesn't matter if you were or you weren't. If you'd enter a relationship with a kind, loving, considerate person, totally different outcome. But you entered it with a narcissist, a sadistic, twisted, warped, psychopathic, evil, satanically driven individual. And you were entering into a cage match that you didn't know you were entering into. Because they tricked you and they faked you because they're master con artists and master manipulators. And you can't know that until you know that. So don't beat yourself up, guys. Take heart. In fact, take heart that you got out. Or that you're figuring it out and that you're going to get out. See, that is slaying a giant. Getting out of the narcissistic relationship, figuring it out, removing yourself, making plans to remove yourself, that is amazing. Pat yourself on the back and praise God at the same time because you figured out a lot of things and you've slayed a giant. Don't feel bad about the narcissistic relationship. You couldn't have known. But now that you do, you're doing something about it, aren't you? So I hope that you are. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your comments. What do you think about this? Am I right? Am I wrong? Let me know. So anyway, I'll come out with another one later this week. Until then, God bless.